podcast. This is our Major League Baseball off-season edition that we have been doing now. I am joined by Tony Sahatjian, the biggest Miami Marlins fan that I know. Quite frankly, the only Marlins fan that I know. But that's okay. That's why we brought him on the show.
Yes. Yeah.
At this point, yes. So, Tony, how's it going, man?
It's going good, yeah. Looking forward to a improving season this year. Hopefully, spring training's been really good. We're 6-0 and we're winning right now. So I'm really happy about that.
So maybe you can take that undefeated record to the regular season.
Maybe. Or that Will Ferrell sign where it just doesn't matter. No.
For sure, man. So, yeah, I'll just go into it. First, starting off, so I don't know if you want to give some people your baseball playing background, maybe kind of why you're into baseball, and then why are you a Miami Marlins fan?
So I played at Bethany Lutheran College with Dorton went there, and a couple of my buddies that I know still go there. And also now I play at a school called Martin Luther College in the same conference in the UMAC. And I'm a junior on the team, and I play catcher and outfield. And we're playing in Florida next Friday against Wartburg, so that should be pretty fun.
Nice. You gonna be able to catch any spring training games down there?
Maybe. I don't know the full schedule. Maybe Tigers the first day.
Okay. Hey, can't go wrong with it though.
Yeah.
So Miami Marlins. Why are you a Miami Marlins fan? Because you're from California. That's where you're from. How did you become a Marlins fan?
I became a Marlins fan because when I was about 2 or 3, my dad lived in Miami and worked construction, and that's when they were like really good. When they had Jeff Conine, they had Pudge Rodriguez, they had Beckett, they had a couple other guys too that won the World Series that year against the Yankees and the Bartman series against the Cubs.
Right. Right. And everybody remembers that. You don't even have to say what happened in that series. You just say the Bartman series, and any baseball fan knows what you're talking about.
Absolutely love Bartman. So.
Oh, he's got to be your favorite all-time non-player that's ever stepped in a Major League Baseball stadium.
Definitely.
What position do you play?
For the team?
Yeah, just for the team, I guess. You know, people are wondering, baseball background, who you played for, what positions you played, what you like the most, maybe.
Right now I play catcher and outfielder, but in terms of like the most, I feel more comfortable in right field.
Why is that?
I also am pretty good at catching, so it just depends where coach wants me. So.
And why do you like right field a little bit more than catcher? Is there any specific reason?
Not really. It's just I feel like I get amped up for games a lot, and in right field it kind of relaxes me.
Yeah.
Whether catcher, you're juggling kind of a million things at once.
Right.
Not that I don't like it. I just like the kind of like, because I get hype and stuff before games. I kind of like that relaxing feeling of being in the outfield and not having a ton of responsibilities to think of. So.
For sure. You just got to worry about catching the fly balls and not letting it go between your legs when you're getting out there.
Pretty much.
All right. Well, are you ready to talk some Marlins or what?
Definitely. Go Marlins.
Go Marlins. All right. So let's just go into it. Last season, obviously, bit of a disappointment. Finished 57 and 105, last place in the NL East. Was there one thing last season that kind of jumped out to you as to why the Marlins weren't successful, or do you think maybe it was a number of different things?
I think it was a number of different things. I think our hitters didn't really show up to the plate as well as we thought they would. So that's why we made some improvements with this offseason with VR and a couple other guys. And then we had a lot of young pitching, like Caleb Smith, Sandy Alcantara, and Yamamoto that we got in the Yelich trade.
Right.
That continue to develop, but of course, as rookies and stuff, they're going to have struggles. So I think it was just pretty much a combination of like talent and just learning how to play at that level a little bit.
Right. And yeah, I kind of would tend to agree with you with like the rookie standpoint. The Marlins are for the last few, they've been a very young team. Like they
Yeah.
have had older guys play, Martin Prado, obviously, Curtis Granderson, those guys.
Neil
But when you
Walker.
have a bunch of and Neil Walker, yeah, especially, and when you have a bunch of like really young guys, rookies, maybe first, second year in the league that don't really have that guidance, it's hard to piece together consistency.
Yeah, that's why we've been trying to get some like veterans in there. We have BA Brian Anderson, and
Yeah,
he's pretty good. He'll be a perennial all-star for his career. And then we brought in some guys this year to handle that. We brought in Francisco Cervelli,
yeah.
who's gonna kind of be that mentor for Alfaro, and you can kind of spell him every once in a while. And we also brought in Jesus Aguilar, who I kind of
Yeah.
like that pickup. So
I do too. Corey Dickerson, another guy that you guys
another
brought
guy.
in.
I saw his.
I'm a huge.
I saw
Yeah,
his.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I saw his 30 clubs at 30 days about him hitting the other day, and it was pretty interesting. So
Yeah. No, Corey Dickerson obviously was on my Colorado Rockies. Loved him there. I mean, the guy was a phenomenal bat. And, Glove was decent as well, too. Obviously, had some success in Tampa, had some success in Pittsburgh. So hopefully he can bring that success to Miami with him. He's got a lot of pop, and now Miami bringing in those fences out there, that might help him out a lot.
yeah, I'm not a huge fan of typically bringing in the fences, but hopefully it can help him. I know that he hit about 300 or 12 homers in about 70 games. So if he can play a full 162, that probably translates out to around 300 and maybe 20 to 25 bombs, which would be
Sure.
a productive year for our offense. So
Absolutely. I mean, Miami, again, offense has been a struggle for them the last few years. And you bring
definitely.
in guys that have that 20, 25 potential home run, potential there, and then bringing in the fences, I think that's only going to be a positive for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I think a lot of people try to like bash Jeter a little bit for some of the trades. But I think the only mistake he made was trading Yelich. I think personally the other two trades have worked out really well. We
Right.
got rid of Giancarlo Stanton, which cleared a ton of money off the books. And we have two prospects from that deal also who are going to be in Double-A next year who are progressing really well.
So that was actually going to be my next question. Was going to be about Derek Jeter. I know a lot of Marlins fans, from what I've seen, kind of upset with him, aren't really happy with the moves that he's made. You, in general, overall, obviously, when you're brought into a situation like the Miami Marlins, it's not going to be an easy task. And I feel no matter what you do, you're going to get ripped apart for it. But in your opinion, have you liked overall what Derek Jeter has been doing there for the Marlins?
Personnel wise, for the most part, yeah, we've brought in a lot of high quality talent. Good trade I thought last year was Zach Gallen, who was maybe a 3 or 4 starter in the majors, and we traded him for top prospect Jazz Chisholm, and I thought we needed that at that time. And you're gonna get criticized, especially in Miami, with the win a World Series, tear it down, win a World Series, tear it down.
Right.
You're going to get criticized for doing the Astros or Cubs model, which obviously, if you stack a bunch of good prospects together, let them develop in the minors and supply them in 3 or 4 years, you'll have a championship contender. So,
Right. And I agree. I think a lot of people, and a lot of people with baseball, this is one thing they don't really understand is that out of all of the four major sports, baseball, you have to have the most patience with when it comes to talent. It's
yeah,
not like football, basketball, sometimes hockey. You draft a guy, the first 15 picks, first round, you
yeah,
expect that guy to be one of, if not the best player on your team that next season. In
yeah,
baseball, you draft someone number one overall. Well, you might not see them in the big leagues for 3-4 years, maybe.
yeah. Yeah,
So I think,
I also think in Miami too, people forget because Miami's a big city. There's a lot to do and stuff, but people forget that the Marlins are kind of that small market team.
yeah,
So when a lot of fans say that, like when we had all those hitters, why not just spend $100 million on like pitchers? I feel like that was not really calculated because we already tried to sign some pitchers like Wei and Chen and a couple other guys,
Yeah.
and that didn't work out. So when something doesn't work out and you haven't made the playoffs, and like Jeter said, in how since 2003, something's got to give. So
Right. So this is another thing also, kind of, I want to get your take on it. Obviously, I don't want to make this whole podcast ripping on the Marlins, but I'm not really ripping on it. Just, just kind of going back. It is kind of, for me, and this is something for as long as I live, I will never understand why they didn't win when they had guys like Yelich, Ozuna, Stanton, Real Muto, Hechavarria, solid player, Bohr, solid players. At the end of the day, and obviously, I don't think when the Brewers traded for Yelich, I don't think they thought he was going to be as good as he's turned out to be for the Brewers. I've always liked Christian Yelich. Whenever I played fantasy baseball, that was a guy I was always drafting in like the end of the second, third round because people slept on him. And the guy, speed, he could hit, didn't have nearly the pop that he has now, but he was a solid player. Turned out to be one of the best in the league.
I have a fun fact about Yelich, actually. So he went to high school about 10 minutes where I live at Westlake High School.
Uh-huh.
And so he's from the town I'm from. And once in a while during the summer when I go work out at the field, I'll see him. And last summer, he was there with his brother Colin, and I worked out with him. So that was pretty fun.
Well, that's awesome. Pretty nice guys, though.
Pretty nice guy. Yeah, really, really nice guy. When people say he's skinny, that is true. He's got a stick build, but he was mashing baseball. So I knew then. I knew since he was in high school he'd be a star in the show. That's why I didn't agree with trading him. So
right. But just going back to that, you had all of these players that are amazing players, but you can never get it done. My personal belief as to why the Marlins kind of declined might have been, Jose Fernandez. When that tragedy happened, the guy at the time was one of probably top 5 pitcher in baseball, maybe top 3. Yeah. People don't remember how phenomenal of a talent this guy was, just a casual baseball fan. Hardcore baseball fans like us and a bunch of other people, they realize this guy was a legit player. And when he passed away, I think that was kind of the decline of the Marlins. What do you think about that?
I think that's true a little bit. I think that he brought the swagger, and he was kind of like that, the voice of the people. Like in Miami, he was a Cuban who defected. He was like the voice of our fans, kind of. And every day he pitched, it was Jose Day, and he was really, really influential to that team. And from a personnel standpoint, I just feel like we didn't already have a lot of pitching. We had Jose. We knew every 5th day he could go out there and win. But other than that, we didn't really have anything. And once he died, I feel like our rotation was a bunch of maybe 4s or 5s. And it's hard, even if you have the hitting. Look at the Orioles, for example, a little bit.
Right.
They had a lot of great hitting and kind of mediocre pitching, and they could never get over that hump.
Yeah. So. I agree. As a Rockies fan, I agree 100%. We've always had some of the best hitting teams, but our pitching has been very subpar, and we've normally been pretty bad because of it.
Yeah. Also, too, the last management also had a chance with that number 2 pick. I think it was in 2015. And we took Tyler Kolek over Carlos Rodon. So.
Yeah, it's tough. Obviously hindsight's 2020. You can go back to any draft and be like, oh, why were these 30 players drafted before this guy? Mike Trout, exactly. And you can look back and see, oh man, that was terrible. Why didn't we do that? But at the end of the day, at the time, yeah, Kolek probably. And here's the thing with Kolek. Very unproven. I don't think he's really. I think he can be good. Obviously, it's been a little bit now. Yeah. But compared to Rodon, who's been in the league and has had some success, definitely is not looking the best so far.
Yeah. Well, also, I was going to make this point, too, that I just remembered. If we were a little bit patient with our prospects at that time, too, with Fernandez, we could have had a really, really good team. Because if you look at our pitching staff, say, if Fernandez did die, if you look at our pitching staff, 2 years after that, with the trades, because we traded for Dan Straley and we traded for someone on the Padres, I remember. And we gave up, you probably know these guys, we gave up Luis Castillo and Chris Paddock. And look where they are now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would have been our top three. Jose Fernandez, Luis Castillo, and Chris Paddock with that lineup. Definitely a championship team.
I mean, especially Chris Paddock now.
Yeah.
You talk about this guy, I could very well see if the Padres are competing this year, I could see him starting game 1 of the NLDS or game 1 or wild game. I mean, this guy's a legit player.
Yeah. And it was, I remember the name. It was for, the Paddock deal was for Fernando Rodney. That's right.
Ugh.
Yeah, I know. He was like 50 years old and he had like a whatever ERA above 5 or whatever.
I mean, Rodney, not a terrible player, don't get us wrong.
Yeah.
But now looking at how Castillo and Paddock are shaping out their careers are probably going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, that's probably the trades that hurt the most, even more than a little bit the Yelich trade, because you could kind of replace that hitting, but replacing those young controllable pitchers at that time we needed them was hard. So, but
right.
I also understand Michael Hill and trying to acquire guys to win at that time.
Sure.
I just felt like the guys he acquired, like for example Dan Straley, were they weren't really superstars, and it's not like they're bad, but they're not superstars. It's like a kind of that 3 or 4 pitcher that we already had.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only gripe I had about that trade is if you're going to trade some of our top prospects when we're contending, do it for like a 1 or 2, like a Greinke or a Robbie Ray or
right.
So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, again, like I said, you can go back to a lot of different trades and say, man, that was absolutely terrible. Why would that team want to do that trade? At the time, probably looked like a good idea. So, I mean, you can knock them a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's kind of hard to do that with prospects.
Yeah. I got another fun fact, too. I was listening a couple months ago to a podcast with our old president, David Sampson, and they actually had a deal in place ready to go to trade Fernandez to the D-backs.
Really?
So Fernandez was going to go to the D-backs, and we were going to get Pollock, Brandon Drury, and Robbie Ray, and another prospect.
Wow.
That was going to be the deal. And the D-backs owner nixed it. He's like, no, I don't want to trade my guys.
Oh, man. That is wild.
Yeah.
Man.
So
I don't know. How do you like that? Would you have been okay with that trade?
Personnel-wise, yeah, you take that trade every time. You get 2 quality position players and a number 2 pitcher, but business-wise, the impact that Fernandez has not only on the game but your city, I just feel like you can't do that. It's just
right.
The backlash if they traded him, they would have been like the most hated people in Miami at the time.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. But anyways, we can move on from last season, kind of move on to this current off season. Like you mentioned, they brought in some guys. They brought in Aguilar, Dickerson, Matt Joyce, who's had some success at some points, Brandon Kinsler. You kind of mentioned before, but this current off season, obviously, it's tough. You're not going to bring in the big name guys, but it's these little guys that mattered. So far this off season, did you like what they did as far as signings and stuff go?
Yeah, I really like what we did. Jonathan VR in a trade for we got him for. I actually played with the guy we got him for in high school, Easton Lucas.
Okay.
So I called him after. I was like a little joking with him. So, but
that's awesome.
It was nice though because VR actually led the Orioles in WAR last year. So I think he's a little underrated because he was with Baltimore. So.
Right.
That's one player. And then, like you mentioned earlier, we have now Corey Dickerson, who's always been a contributor where he's been. So
Yeah.
then,
No, that's a great point for sure. As far as I guess Marlins fans go, Derek Jeter, is he pretty well liked amongst Marlins fans now compared to, let's say, when he was first trading everybody?
I'm not sure. I think a lot of Marlins fans are still hesitant about him because these prospects, we got to remember, are prospects. So
Right.
if they don't pan out and we're in let's say this 20-year stretch or where we don't compete, then I feel like what's the point of trading all these guys? Like
Right.
I remember one guy at the team hall when Jeter first came in. Jeter like laid out his plan and everything, which to do that in front of a season ticket crowd was I commend him for that because it's really hard when you get people paying a lot of money to tell them kind of the truth. So
Right.
But the funny part about it is I remember one fan being like, I'm going to die before the Marlins are ever a winner.
Oh man, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
if he brings the culture though that he kind of grew up with and played with, and also keeps going with, and hits on these prospects, I think in a couple of years Jeter will be looked at as kind of that Marlins kind of savior in a way.
Sure. And I would like to tend to agree with that. A lot of times with prospects and stuff, and rebuilds, and like I said, you gotta have a ton of patience. Not a lot of times they work, but fair amount of times they do. I mean, look at the Houston Astros. Obviously, their World Series title is a little tainted now, but you gotta commend like the process that they did. They had terrible teams for a few years, and they got the Springers, the Correas, those guys, the Jordan Alvarez, and now they're one of the elite teams in baseball.
Yeah, I think I compare it a little more to Houston's a good example, but I compare it a little more to Chicago. Where Chicago before they started the rebuild they weren't horrible, but they're kind of like that mediocre like 15-16 team.
Sure.
In the league. And once Theo started their rebuild and got all those guys in, and they came up in the big leagues, you really saw what they could do. So
Sure.
But I think our draft this year is gonna be interesting because last year we drafted J.J. Baudet from Vanderbilt, and he's been in camp. I've heard he's been really, really tearing the cover off and impressing people. So
that's awesome. That's great. It's great to see those prospects that you spend high draft picks on actually contribute.
Definitely, yeah.
That's huge. So Don Mattingly, obviously that guy, he is your skipper. He has been for the past few seasons now. Are you a fan of him? Do you like what he brings to the team? Obviously, again, you can only do so much with the talent that's given to you, but do you like him personally?
Personally, not really, because not because of his time in Miami. Like you said, the hand he's been dealt hasn't really been fair to him and his resume. But I think if you look at the Dodgers when he was managing them, they were for those years a pretty good team, and they couldn't get over the hump in that like divisional round.
Right.
And then when Roberts got there, they you see them going to like multiple World Series and really being a top echelon team. So not everything I know, because baseball's kind of that type of game, but I think some of that you got to figure has to do with Mattingly and kind of his managerial style. Maybe I'm not sure.
Sure. What about Marlins fans in general? Obviously, you're not really close to Miami, so it's hard to be in that culture there. Obviously, living in California, going to school in Minnesota, you're not necessarily close to Florida at all. But as far as from what you know, Marlins fans and any group pages and stuff, how do they feel about him? Kind of the same opinion as you?
Yeah, a little bit. There's more of that respect, though. Like oh, Donnie's been there for a while. He's managed for a lot of years. He kind of knows how to grow up a team in a way, and he'll be that kind of adult figure more than like say the past managers we had, like the Edwin Rodriguez's of the world, or when we brought not the first time, but when we brought Jack McKeon back for the second time when he was like 80 years old.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah, that's tough. Do you see him? Obviously, there's a little bit of a connection, the Yankee connection. Obviously, Mattingly, phenomenal player with the Yankees. Derek Jeter, phenomenal player with the Yankees. Do you see Mattingly sticking around for the long term, or do you think Derek Jeter is going to sever those? I mean, obviously, I don't think it plays a huge factor into it, but I think both of them being phenomenal players on the Yankees at points, most of the points in their career, might play in the factor. Do you see Jeter keeping Mattingly for the long haul?
Probably, yes. I think Jeter's gonna give him all the time that he thinks he deserves. And how I think it's gonna go actually is I think he'll stick around for a good number of years, but then there'll be a point maybe where we're just like we win the division or we get to like the divisional or championship round, like the Dodgers kind of did, but we can't get over the hump. And then maybe he goes to because there's other Yankees in the house that if he would fire would be manager candidates. Like for example, we hired Jorge Posada as a special assistant last year.
Okay.
He could be a candidate. And then there's some other guys with experience too. But you got a good point with the Yankee connection and kind of that experience and respect that Mattingly was a Yankee great like before Jeter was too.
Yeah.
I think that that really kind of helps cement himself as the manager, at least for, I would say, the next 4 or 5 years.
Sure, for sure. Well, that's interesting. Just kind of wanted to get your take on that. So obviously, going towards next season, expectations, are they pretty high, pretty low? No real expectations? What do you think?
I think the expectation should be high every single year, but I think the win total, I think we should be around 500. I want to see it just be around 500, be competitive like realistically, and when we get to June or July, I want to see some of these guys we've heard of. Maybe Sixto Sanchez comes up, or maybe Edward Cabrera comes up, or Braxton Garrett, our first round pick in 2017, gets up. Okay. So some of these guys just scattered in throughout the year and just see how they progress and kind of develop that kind of chemistry we are now in spring training, which really helps you during that long stretch of 162. So
if you were to make a prediction, you think they'd be probably around the 81 win mark?
Yeah, 81 wins.
So that's a 24 win increase from this last season. That's a big step.
Yeah, I know. I just think the players we added and the players we have coming, I just feel like we're gonna get. Obviously, you can't get any worse, but I feel like we're gonna get better, and we're gonna challenge a couple or surprise a couple teams this year. So
for sure.
And like.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like Donnie said in his press conference the other day, you got the Mets, Braves, the Nationals, and the, who am I forgetting?
The Mets. Who'd you say?
Mets, Braves, Nationals.
Come on, Tony. NL East guy. You don't know your teams?
Yeah, I know. I've had a. But
Philly.
Yeah, anyways, to his quote, he said that those teams that are in it are gonna beat up on each other. So I think that's so true because you got teams, say like the Braves or the Mets or the Nationals, all competing with teams like the Phillies, who are maybe a little bit behind that, but they still invested a ton of money with Harper and a bunch of other players. And I think them kind of playing it out, because any one of them I feel like could be the number one team in the NL East. But I think that gives us more of a chance to kind of like, oh, we're playing Miami. Like, let's just get like 2 out of 3 wins and get out of here really easy.
Sure. So kind of getting undermined a little bit. It might work in your advantage with teams not taking you as serious.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, next season, obviously the Marlins are a team that a lot of people aren't going to know players from them. So is there one name in specifics that non-Marlins fans should know? Say, hey, watch this guy, look at the box score, watch for his play this season because he's going to surprise people.
I think that that guy is second baseman Isan Diaz. He was a Milwaukee Brewers prospect also from that Yelich trade. And he came up in about August. I think it was August last year, and he played really, really well. And he's known for his bat, and I feel like giving him the spot full time, now that Starlin Castro's gone, I feel like you're really going to see his power and his overall play blossom. Because in AAA, he was a big power guy, I think. He hit like some around like 30 bombs, maybe like 290. So he was, for a smaller guy I have it right here, at 5'10", 185, he could surprise some people.
Well, it's good. I remember him. I remember when he came up last year. I do remember watching some highlights from him. I think he could be a solid player. I'm really excited to see how Alfaro does this year behind the plate. I think a solid player. I think he really is going to take a next step and become a really, really solid player this season. Maybe some all-star considerations.
Yeah, he's got to get Alfaro's really good at the bat. He's just got to get better defensively, I feel like. Because that was the thing we had with Real Muto. Real Muto was a pretty good hitter, and he was kind of a Gold Glove all-star where you knew a guy runs, or you knew ball in the dirt, or some of these like pretty like mundane things for the MLB like he could do. With Alfaro, it's kind of like defensively you never know. You're kind of cringing a little bit.
Sure.
So.
Interesting. Well, that's all the stuff I have to talk about. Now we can get into some more fun stuff as far as the Marlins. Ask you specific questions, maybe, might be kind of fun.
Yeah.
So have you ever personally been to Marlins Park?
Yes, I went there my junior year of high school last time for vacation.
Okay.
When they played the Chicago Cubs that night.
Okay.
And then they played your team, the Rockies, 2 nights later.
Okay. Did you watch that one too?
Yeah, I went to both of those games.
Who won that Rockies game?
I don't want to say but it's the Rockies. Rockies won. They won like 5-something, or it was like 5-1 or something.
Nice.
We start. Let's see. I think, that was that year. We started. It might have been Straley. I think it was. Yeah, it was Dan Straley that night, I think, against Freeland or somebody.
Okay, that's awesome. So fans maybe who don't know Marlins Park, maybe haven't been around the area, what are some fun things maybe around the ballpark and then inside of the ballpark that kind of makes Marlins Park unique from other MLB stadiums?
Well, one of them that was there that they've changed now is the home run sculpture used to be there.
Right.
But Jeter decided to take that out, so that's outside the ballpark, which if I go there again, which I'm planning to in the next couple of years again, when I'm out of college, that is there. Inside the stadium now, in left field, it's kind of hard to find sometimes, but it's kind of like in the back of that left field pavilion, but they have a Cuban section, and their sandwiches are the best sandwiches in the league.
Okay. What makes them the best sandwiches?
You got the smoked ham, the bread, and then you got what are the chips called? Like they're like I should know this. Yeah, they got these like special like kind of like chips that are like Miami. It's like a Miami like thing. So like they're pretty good. So
Okay, for sure. That's awesome. Okay, so now more kind of, I don't say rapid fire, but it makes you think a little bit. Who is your all-time favorite Major League Baseball player?
oh, that's easy. That's Miguel Cabrera
And why is that?
because he was an absolute monster at the Marlins, and I remember when he got traded too. I followed his career still, and he's still dominant in Detroit. But now with that, it's kind of sad nowadays to kind of see him where he is.
Sure.
But
Nice. And then as far as, and if, I'm assuming it's probably going to be the same player, who is your all-time favorite Marlin?
no, not the same player. I think it's Jeff Conine, just because.
Really? Okay.
How can you not pick Mr. Marlin for your all-time favorite?
That's true. That's a good point.
So, and he was just that kind of gritty player. He was never like our best player, but he was always kind of clutch hitting. And his son, I think his son got drafted by Toronto a couple years ago from Duke. So I was hoping we would draft him, but he didn't fall to us, I think.
For sure. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, so is there anything else as far as Marlins talk goes that you want to bring up before we're finished here?
Well, like we talked about earlier, I think that we're going to surprise some people in terms of the NL East. And just for a kind of projection of where competing, I think 2021 we're going to make the playoffs. I'm predicting that right now.
Okay.
I say our lineup gets better Our pitching staff with the young guys develop a little bit, and we make one or two moves in the offseason maybe at the trade deadline. Even though if we're not in it, we could still be a player at the trade deadline for those good players that might have lower contracts that we can maybe throw mid-level prospects for. So
okay. So 2021, that's pretty big expectations. Talking about only winning 57 games a year ago to now next year potentially making the playoffs. That would be big.
It'd be huge for Miami and Marlins fans. I always joke about it, but it's not. I always joke about the only two times we've been in the playoffs, we've won the World Series. So the next time we're in the playoffs, we're gonna win the World Series.
That's true. That's just how it's gonna go.
Yeah,
that's how it's gonna play out.
Marlins don't lose in the playoffs.
You got a lot riding on it.
Yeah. So I don't think that streak's gonna continue, but if it does, I'll be really happy whenever it happens. So.
Well, Tony, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I hope you had a decent time on here.
Yeah, thank you, Lucas. It was a really good time to
absolutely.
Favorite team. So
for sure. So is there anywhere if people want to find you on social media, talk some Marlins, talk baseball with you, where can they find you at? If you don't want them to, that's okay too.
My social media, my Instagram is you like that action. So it's you like that _action if you want to follow me and keep up with the season. And I recently started a new YouTube channel. If anyone wants to check it out, it's about kind of the MLC baseball team and kind of like I did a technical video of like hitting analysis. So if you're into like college baseball or like the details of like the team or hitting, then my channel is just my name, Tony Sahatjian, and I have 2 videos right now, and I'm planning to release one before Florida next week. So
awesome,
little fun side thing to do.
Now, for people who might not know how to spell your last name, how do you spell it for them?
My last name, if you want to search it, it's Sahatjian. So it's really, I'm 5% Armenian. That's where it comes from. So.
Okay, for sure. Well, again, Tony, thank you for coming on. Definitely come back in the future. Maybe talk if the Marlins do finish around 500 this year. A lot of props will be thrown away. What's that?
Or if we make the playoffs this year, which I don't
Or if you make the shoot, aim high, right? Aim high.
Aim high always, yes.
That's awesome. If you want to follow myself on Twitter, it's Lucas_Dorton, capital L, capital D. We have made a new Twitter page for the Dorton and Doetkott Debate podcast. It's at DND_podcast. Capital D's there for that. But yeah, so definitely follow that. Follow this. Follow Tony, what he's doing at MLC with his baseball videos and stuff. And so that's all the stuff we have to talk about. As for Tony Sahatjian and myself, Lucas Dorton, we are out.